Hi John, thanks for joining us here today.
Pleasure, Alex. Great to have you here.
Tell us really briefly about yourself and your practice.
So I'm the founding partner of Wardle, a firm of architects traditionally based in Melbourne only, but working in many places beyond. And for the last 4.5 years now in Melbourne and Sydney, we opened a studio in Sydney.
Tell me about where we are today.
Well, this is our family's other home and designed for our multiplying family in Anglesea on the western coast of Victoria. Anglesea is a place I spent much of my summers here as a child. It's a place and a part of the coast I know very well from early childhood right through adolescence. It was always very important that we do something here that would transcend time and generations of kids growing up and all those sorts of things, but do so in a way that was completely different from our homes in Melbourne.
Give us the narrative walkthrough. What are some of the architectural elements that you really love in this house?
Well, I mean, a long-term interest in terra cotta as a material, fascination with ceramics generally, and a working knowledge, and I can say that's about all it is, a working knowledge with the making of ceramics and the firing of bricks and things. So this house defines two completely different makers using completely divergent technologies in two hemispheres of the world. So Linton Krause, and as the third member of his family, for Krause Brickworks in central Victoria in Stawell, and working with him and his team for the exterior and internal walls of the house out of Australian terracotta, and then with the deep friendship formed with Federico Manetti in Tuscany, and the working again with the knowledge that inherent in that remarkable family business of theirs into the other part of the interior, the primary part, which is the floor and joinery surfaces and the other walls, all made from terracotta from that place.
It kind of relates back to the name of the residence, which is Burnt Earth Beach House.
Yeah, well,
isn't it?
it's sort of a joke that stuck, but I thought I'd take the anglicised version of terracotta, which is baked earth, and Australianise it by calling it burnt earth.
I just wanted to ask very quickly, I meant to ask a little bit earlier, just with the terracotta tiles and the way they move up from the floor onto that kitchen bench top. I'd love to hear, was that your idea? And
so you'll notice that tiles climb up from the passage side and reach over and close this massive 2.5 metre square central island bench. The kitchen is the heart of the house, as it should be, I think. Certainly for our family, with a coastal house, so it assumes it's a place for many cooks, and there's a sort of a social equity around it. There's this floating object in the middle of the house, and it literally is the centrepiece of the house. If we were to draw lines from these two radiating arms that extend out to create this northern courtyard, they dissect right in the middle of that kitchen bench. So it is really the heart of the house.
I'd love to hear more about your relationship with Manetti and how you came to meet them and how you've worked with them and how you've worked with them particularly for this house.
Yeah, well, that's it's a wonderful story. A story of travelling and having our travels often dictated by a passion for ceramics, and we've done that the world over. And it was a particular day I thought I'd like to visit a terracotta factory, and I rang William at Artedomus. Within half an hour, we were on a cab heading to Grieve and Chianti into their factory, and that's where a really solid friendship has been formed. On a subsequent trip, Federico took us through, and we saw two guys take about 4 minutes to make a single tile for that range they use for the Uffizi. I thought, no, show me the stuff you extrude out of a machine at great speed that I know I can afford. So from the other part of what they do, which is super high tech, and these amazing processes of extrusion of making these tiles.
And I can see that they've got a very beautiful finish as well. So it's not really, while it's a high volume kind of production they've got there, they actually take a lot of care with their product, don't they?
They do. I mean, it really looks like a handmade tile. They're quite beautiful, and that very, very slight variance across a floor where they appear like a baked earth, which is what terracotta is.
Tell me about how those relationships have extended into other projects such as Q House, for example?
Yeah, well, that's a relationship that's spanned a different part of the planet, and that's much more about Japan through William and Artedomus, the knowledge of different makers that have come together in the making of tiles specifically for that house. A very special place, yeah. And then from there to other projects, the 66,000 small Inax tiles within 150,000 small oval-shaped recesses in the concrete facades of the Melbourne's Conservatorium of Music. Again, so much work involved in having those specially made for us.
Actually, the bathrooms in this house are quite special as well. And I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about some of the special features in those zones.
Yeah, well, they're both upstairs and down, entirely clothed in terra cotta. So it's probably the most immersive experience of that material from Manetti also. And the downstairs one is meant to be a general bathroom for robust use, and it is. And you'll see that constant wrap and just some subtle things, a shift from one format to another, to a finer tile, terracotta tile, as it comes up around where the basin and mirror is, but otherwise literally that floor surface climbing the walls to cover the entire space. So what I do like about it, it's then extraordinarily singular. You really feel like you are being immersed in this one warm earthen material.
And speaking of being immersed, there's a pretty beautiful bathtub in there too, which carries quite a lovely story of craftsmanship, doesn't it?
Yes, well, again, through discussion, through Artedomus to Federico, apparently had at one stage made a bath. I don't think recently, because it's quite funny, because we drew up what we thought was an Australian bath, which was sort of squarish, wide and low, and obviously over there they looked at it and thought, well, gosh, that's not a bath. It's got to be narrow, tall, and extraordinarily deep. And for all of that, I just love the story of it. It's such a quirky, wonderful thing, completely unexpected.
What about the agape bathware pieces that you chose for your space too?
Beautiful basins. I like this slightly earthenware-y finish rather than a straight, shiny, glossy white porcelain, which I also do like, but I think in this instant that finish is beautiful. Just the whole sort of ergonomics of them, that amazingly shallow, broad format is really beautiful, I think. I'm really pleased with them. And the towel rolls and toilet roll holders and things like that and there's sort of a primal quality to them that I think with what we're trying to achieve with this house that is so good with them. They're the exposed screws and the really simple folds and things. There's something really very singular but a very astute and singular piece.
Again, I was listening to that wonderful gold medal address that you gave, and you said something really interesting about how the development of your practice had been unscripted. And I wondered, reflecting back, what had drove the development of your practice?
Could you think of an easier question to end an interview on?
Well, I just loved this
no
idea
idea, quite frankly.
You must have just been in it and doing it for so many years, and then you must have reached a point where you said, wait a second, what have we been doing? And this will mean something. And
you
then
just
we need to
answered your own question.
Is that what
no
it was
idea.
like?
It's been a practice that's had no specific trajectory, but we won a competition here, so we went to Sydney, or a big quest for working out of something for the University of Tasmania that took us right through COVID. I can actually look at these projects and they can all chart the course of the practice, but through no particular plan. It's a practice that's grown organically through just a level of curiosity. One thing that does define us is a very broad range of work. Still beach houses to very large buildings and conservatories of music and research buildings and very tall commercial towers, and that vast range, which is a thing that I'm probably so pleased with. It means that we're not specialists. We're sometimes I think at our best I describe us as fabulous generalists, although we don't. It's funny. I mean, we've done about 10 libraries. We don't consider ourselves library specialists or advertise that. In fact, just along the way, you accumulate knowledge that runs deep into the practice, the remarkable group of people have come together to form our practice over time, have collective skills that allow us to move and merge into different areas readily, and it's often the first entree into a new type of work. You know, the first conservatorium, the first research building that have created, I think, many of our best pieces of work.
Wonderful answer to a complex question. Thank you. Thank you so much.